79-year-old Audrey Baker lives alone in her San Francisco apartment. She's a thin woman who is blind and suffers from hypertension and diabetes. While she qualifies for a hot home-delivered meal, Audrey will go without, and she will wait. Why isn't this woman, who is obviously in need, receiving the 5 hot meals a week promised to her by the federal government? Well, according to the March 30th, 1998 issue of The Nation, to find the ministry responsible for Audrey's dilemma, we really need to look in a mirror. You see, volunteer support for programs such as Meals on Wheels has dropped 50% since 1973. So even if there was a meal waiting for Miss Baker, we're not there to deliver it. And Miss Baker is not the only one waiting. Other organizations, such as Neighborhood Watch and Big Brothers Big Sisters, are reporting similar alarming trends. Now, if you think you're about to hear a speech convincing you all to volunteer, you're wrong. Well, partially wrong. Because, as many of you may know, volunteering in America has actually increased 8% over the past 6 years, according to the March 30th, 2000 Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Many of us in this very room are involved in community service and volunteer projects. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is not the quantity of volunteerism in America, but rather the quality. So today, we'll take a look at this dilemma by first examining our volunteering problem in America. Secondly, by looking at what has brought us to this state. And finally, by volunteering some solutions that will hopefully answer America's cry for help. Statistics show that the number of volunteers in America has increased over the past 10 years. The May 5th, 1997 U.S. News and World Report states that from 1990 to 1996, there was almost a 300% increase in the number of teenagers reporting to have participated in community service. On the surface, it sounds like we teens have picked up the humanitarian torch and are doing our part. If this were the case, however, then how can an organization like Big Brothers Big Sisters report that they have 7 times more children asking for mentors than they have individuals volunteering to be one? Well, the answer lies within the numbers. As stated in the aforementioned U.S. News and World Report, of the approximately 93 million volunteers who gave their time in 1995, fewer than 9% of them worked in human services, a category that includes helping the homeless, family counseling, and aiding the Red Cross. A dismal 4% worked as tutors, and only 1% volunteered their time as mentors for underprivileged youth. So, what are all these volunteers doing with their volunteer time? Well, about a quarter of that original 93 million say they volunteer their time babysitting a neighbor's kid, or baking cookies for a school fair. And while these acts are admirable, you tell me what's more important, teaching a child to read or baking Rice Krispie treats for the Elks Club. Sure, we're offering a helping hand, just as long as we don't have to reach that hand too far. Why then don't we volunteer to the causes that require the most help and support? Well, there are 2 major reasons as to why the most needy go unnoticed. The first is simply, we think other people are taking care of the problem for us. In 1997, we heard a great deal about America's Promise, an organization headed by General Colin Powell to promote volunteerism. The organization pledged to help the lives of 2 million needy kids by the year 2000. According to Powell's plan, businesses were supposed to finance the $10 million advertising campaign, which would have enabled such organizations as Big Brothers Big Sisters to double in size. Unfortunately, those goals were never met. In fact, of the 325 corporate commitments, few have had any significant impact at all. The problem, according to the January 5th, 1998 New Republic, is that many of the businesses had their own agendas for joining America's Promise. They were more concerned with building their own public image rather than helping the lives of needy kids. For example, the Sears and Roebuck Corporation met their requirement by taking 50,000 needy kids to the circus. Ironically enough, each group attended on Sears and Roebuck night. And Sears is more the norm than the exception, as most companies followed that same image-conscious approach to philanthropy. It's looking more and more like America's Promise is just another pledge that we can't keep. The second cause is that our motivation to volunteer is coming from the wrong places. According to the May 28, 2000 St. Louis Post-Dispatch, a growing number of students are volunteering just to help pad their otherwise meager transcript. They make community service an act performed out of academic necessity rather than selflessness. Perhaps Father Isaac Miller put it best when he explained, "We need people who are willing to come and work in the soup kitchen, not just pass out that plate of food, but to actually sit down and talk with some of the people who come in looking for help. That's how you make a difference." Similarly, some states, actually like Maryland and even here in Illinois, actually require students to do community service in order to graduate. But this unfortunately leads to more apathetic volunteers and similar discouraging results. So how do we rekindle the flame which fuels the spirit behind our volunteerism? Well, we must build that fire at both a national and a personal level. First and foremost, America's Promise. Now, don't mistake me. I applaud the ideals behind the program, just not the path they took to try to achieve them. But America's Promise can be fulfilled. Jim Hayes, the CEO of Junior Achievement, claims it's merely a matter of organization. Rather than asking companies, what can you do to help? Corporations should be shown exactly what they can do by being partnered with specific help organizations. So rather than Sears spending thousands of dollars taking needy kids to the circus, they can spend that same money taking them to the workplace, first showing them what skills they need to succeed, and then by supplying the resources they do need to reach their goals. Secondly, we need to focus on schools with mandatory volunteer hours. Rather than volunteer hours being a supplement to a student's education, these programs should be a part of their education. Public service and altruism should be incorporated into a student's curriculum as early as an elementary level, and not just as another tacked-on graduation requirement. This way, we are more likely to come away from these experiences with much more than just a diploma. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, our own attitudes must change. No one said that volunteering is easy, but take on that challenge, because the feeling that you get from helping a child learn to read or delivering a hot meal to someone who can't afford one is a feeling that you can take with you forever. Volunteering shouldn't be something that you hate doing. Therefore, just take something that you're good at and apply it in your community. If you're artistic, create a piece of art to give to a nursing home. Or better yet, go down to that nursing home and share your time and talents with the residents. You'd be amazed at the impact it can have. Today, we have seen the misdirection of volunteerism in America. We have looked at how the pressures of college applications, as well as the overshadowing presence of corporate community service, have set us down the wrong track, as well as finding ways of help setting us back down that path to self-fulfillment. We must remember that there are people out there that have less than we do and require our help. If each one of us gave just a little more, then maybe Audrey Baker will receive a knock on her door by someone who wants to help. That can be our promise.